in the troubling case of Clarence Thomas.
The confirmation process comes under fire from a man who has been there before, Judge Robert Bork.
And Lee Iacocca has some new ammunition in his fight to revive the lagging U.S. auto industry. Spencer?
Well, Joan, flood watches are in effect for much of Florida this morning, southern Florida, as showers and thunder showers will produce up to 4 inches of rainfall over already saturated grounds. Charlie?
Thanks, Spencer. This promises to be a very interesting day in the United States Senate. The vote's still scheduled for 6 o'clock tonight on the nomination of Clarence Thomas. And how the senators vote, obviously, could reflect their response to the weekend's spellbinding testimony from Thomas and Anita Hill, who has accused him of sexual harassment. Whatever happens, some are saying that the real victims in this case are African Americans across the country. We're going to explore that issue in this half hour. Very full program today.
And also this morning, the last time Calvin Trillin came to Good Morning America, he was appearing in a one-man Broadway show. Well, now he returns to his reporting roots with a collection of stories about characters who are, by turns, fascinating and sometimes disturbing. Calvin Trillin will tell us more about his American stories. But, of course, leading the news at this hour, the countdown to an historic Senate vote. And Mike Schneider has that story. They are the news of the day. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Joan. Good morning, everyone. The question being asked almost everywhere this morning is, should Judge Thomas be on the U.S. Supreme Court? It seems that everybody has an opinion. Hundreds of thousands of people have been calling Capitol Hill to tell theirs. But in the end, it all comes down to 100 people, 98 men and 2 women, the senators who will vote on the Thomas nomination later today. The Democrats, of course, are the key here. Some still support Judge Thomas. Others say they're thinking about it.
I have found that the result of these hearings, that it is inconclusive, and that the burden of proof to overcome a presumption in favor of Judge Thomas was not met to justify changing this senator's vote.
The calls and the people I've talked to are overwhelming in support of Judge Thomas. But I'm going through the weighing of evidence, the sifting of evidence, seeing about a lot of inconsistencies that have arisen during the hearings to ultimately make up my mind.
Judge Thomas needs 51 votes to win confirmation. As the time of the vote approaches, it does appear that he does have enough support to get through, but nobody on either side is predicting victory right now. This is simply too close to call. ABC's Jim Wooten has been following the process in the Senate, and he joins us live from Capitol Hill this morning. Jim, do you get a sense of any momentum anyway here?
You know, it's very difficult to measure, Michael. Most of the people who are undecided have gone into hiding, I think, or have simply decided that they are not going to talk to us about what it is they plan to do. It's a tough vote for many of them because of the conflicting and complex issues involved here. There are charges of racism on one side, there are charges of sexism on the other. These fellows and the 2 women are saying that they're making up their minds according to their conscience. With all due respect to them, as Bennett Johnson said yesterday, you just can't take the politics out of politics.
Is there much in the way of lobbying going on right now? Do you see any organized groups going up on the Hill over the last couple of days trying to get their point across?
You know, there has been a distinct absence of organized groups up here. That is, demonstrations of people carrying placards. There is the occasional person out here in front of the Russell office building or the Dirksen or the Capitol carrying a placard championing one side or the other. But most of the lobbying is going on sub rosa, that is, on telephone calls and visits to Senate offices by representatives of various groups who've taken one side or another on this. It's going to be an interesting day. It is a historic day. The debate will begin later on in the morning. I would expect we'll hear in that debate a lot of argument that isn't about the Thomas Hill addendum hearings. That is, arguments about his qualifications, his constitutional breadth and experience from people who want to vote on that issue rather than this issue.
Jim, we'll leave it there for now. Check back with you later in the day. ABC's Jim Wooten live for us this morning on Capitol Hill. Now, the weekend hearings there appear to have helped Judge Thomas at least away from Capitol Hill.
Patrick?
An ABC News poll taken last night shows that public support for Thomas continues to grow. 61% of the men we spoke to say they support Judge Thomas now. Nearly as many women have said the same thing, and that is quite a change from 2 days before. At that time, the support gap between men and women, the gender gap, was 16 points. So both the Senate head count and the public opinion polls appear to be leaning in favor of Judge Thomas right now, but the White House is still being very cautious. President Bush, we're told, plans to spend at least part of the day trying to build on what seems to be some positive momentum. And for more on that right now, we go to ABC's Ann Compton, who is live at the White House. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Mike. I think you're right. The president found it unnecessary yesterday to hunt down some of those wavering senators back in their home states, where perhaps he is letting the impact of the polls, public opinion, and all of those telephone calls and telegrams, giving that time to sink in. President Bush made only one brief public statement yesterday, and that's when he returned to the White House from Camp David. He gave thanks to one group in particular for supporting Clarence Thomas.
I am very pleased with the way the support all across the country is holding strong for Judge Thomas. It's important to note that among Afro-Americans, Black Americans, that the support is very, very strong. That is significant and I think highly important.
Highly important, perhaps, because many of those senators on the president's call list are Southern Democrats who have long known the power of the black vote in their states. You don't get this sense of great victory here this morning, Mike, but you do get the sense that, for the moment, it would seem, the crisis on the Thomas nomination is past.
And also the sense, perhaps, that at least it's going to be over soon and they can get back to some other business and put this behind them?
Perhaps there's another bruising nomination this week as well, Robert Gates for the CIA, and they do fear some kind of overtones to that.
And thanks very much. ABC's Ann Compton live for us this morning at the White House. Now, as for Professor Anita Hill, she was welcomed back to Oklahoma yesterday by hundreds of her cheering supporters. Professor Hill told the crowd her experience wasn't totally negative. She says she stands now as a role model for others who believe that they are victims of sexual harassment. And she also insisted everything she said was the truth.
It was suggested that I had fantasies, that I was a spurned woman, and that I had a martyr complex. I will not dignify those theories, except to assure everyone that I am not imagining the conduct to which I testified.
Now, the Senate did not take testimony from another woman who had offered to give some information about Judge Thomas. Her name is Sukari Hartnett. She also worked for Thomas at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. She claims that Thomas visually inspected black women who worked for him, but she stopped short of alleging actual sexual harassment. Judiciary Committee sources say Hartnett was not called because they ran out of time. ABC News will bring you live coverage of the Senate vote on Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas, scheduled to begin at 6 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. And tomorrow there will be a special ABC News town meeting anchored by Ted Koppel on the confirmation process. A process run amok? Can it be fixed? That town meeting will begin tomorrow night when Nightline is usually seen. Some other news for you this morning. Secretary of State Baker visiting Syria and Israel today. He is still working out the details for that proposed Mideast peace conference. Yesterday, Mr. Baker was in Jordan, and he not only got King Hussein to say yes, Jordan will attend the meeting, he also got an indication from Palestinians that they will be there too. Later today, the Palestinians who met last week with Baker in Washington will be in Jordan to talk about forming a joint delegation with the Jordanians to attend those talks. That's it for now. Let's check in with Joan and Spencer.
All right, thank you, Mike. And Spencer's here to tell us they're still getting soaked down there in Florida, aren't they?
I am the bearer of bad news. Florida got a bit of a break late last week.
Both again, thank you for being here. This was a dispute, Eleanor Holmes Norton, over whether sexual harassment did or did not occur. Did race have to be a factor?
Race should not have been a factor. When a black woman says that a black man harassed her or abused her, of course, we're talking within the family. However, Judge Thomas came into the hearings recognizing that Anita Hill, Professor Hill, had been extraordinarily credible and dignified and decided to use the race card. An interesting move on his part, since he had spent his entire career criticizing blacks for whining about race. Once he threw that in, the hearings gave the appearance of a black man before an all-white jury. These 14 white men in the white male Senate, a Senate that is so utterly undiverse, and I must say that if anything gives a spur for statehood for the District of Columbia, where you might begin to get some diversity, there are surely these hearings which pointed up the lack of diversity, the tension between blacks and whites in representation alone.
Let me take this to Dr. Poussaint. Was race inevitably going to be a factor?
Yeah, race was an issue. For instance, suppose the woman instead of Anita Hill, suppose it was a white woman in the same situation. I suspect that if it was a white woman in this situation, that the senators would have been much harder on Judge Thomas, and that tonight they would be less likely to vote him in as a Supreme Court justice.
Let me interrupt you, though.
Because black women are not credible in these situations to a lot of white men.
Let me interrupt you on that point, because I have great respect for what you say, and I'm always interested in it, but she was not, in this case, a white woman. It was a black woman accusing.
That's right. What I'm saying is the attitudes in the country don't take black women seriously about their charges of rape, sexual abuse, and sexual harassment. They take seriously white women, particularly white women's charges against black men. So I think that the senators would have identified much more with a white woman. They would have felt, that might be my daughter, that might be my wife, and they would have been much harsher in their consideration of Judge Thomas.
When I sat down, we've made much in this broadcast, and much has been made elsewhere, of the fact that this is a black nominee, obviously, but this was a sexual harassment issue. And when I sat down on Friday to watch the hearings, I thought, this is not a black-white issue, this is a male-female issue.
But it's always a black-white issue in there. But I think a black-white issue is intrinsically in there in the United States on an issue of this type, because it's a fact, Charles, that black women are not treated equally with regard to those charges. I mean, in rape and so on, they have not been treated historically with fairness and equality with regard to these issues. They've been abused on them. And I think white men know that, and they react differently to white women versus black women, particularly when it comes to black men.
I know why.
And I think it was a white woman that Judge Thomas would be in much more trouble. It would be more likely that they would have believed those witnesses who corroborated Anita Hill's testimony. I think the lie detector test would have meant more. This woman took it voluntarily, which took guts, at least to say, listen, I'm ready to go before a polygraph to show that I am telling the truth. But it was ignored by these white senators because I think that they don't respect black women.
Let me get a response from Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Well, I think that Dr. Poussin is describing the way in which the hearings would come across to many blacks, particularly once the issue of race is raised, but even before it is raised. Race has such an awesome presence for blacks, especially in this situation, where sex was involved and where sex and race are often mixed, and where you had whites on one side and black people on the other, that the first thing blacks would have looked for is to see the racial implication. And yes, there was this lonely, dignified black woman, and there was this black man. Blacks felt mortified that the process had caused the washing of this dirty linen in public. Blacks felt terribly confused by the process. And black women and black men both, if you talk to people in the black community, did not quite know how to react, how to behave, because for them the racial prism is there first, and then they get to other issues.
Let me take the final 30 seconds here to Dr. Poussin. He used the phrase, it went on the table when he used the phrase, I'm not going to provide the rope for my own lynching. My response was, whew, as he put the issue on the table there. But how did it play overall, do you think?
Well, I think that would certainly touch a lot of black Americans, the analogy, although I think it's inappropriate in this case, and it's ironic that someone like Clarence Thomas, who has not been a champion really of civil rights, would then use a race bait in order to support himself. It was ironic, but I think to some people it played well.
Very interesting. Eleanor Holmes Norton, thank you again for being with us. Dr. Alvin Poussin, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have each of you here. I appreciate it. It's 16 minutes after the hour. Lee Iacocca's billion-dollar plan to challenge the Japanese auto industry. A look at that when we continue.
It's a whole lot more than a four-door.
Swing battle in a Senate confirmation hearing in our next half hour.
It is now 18 minutes after. For Detroit's automakers, the economic recession seems far from over. The big three of the U.S. auto industry, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, all faced their worst second quarter in 11 years with combined losses of $1.3 billion. But in the face of tough economic times, Chrysler has taken a multi-billion-dollar gamble on its future. Later today, Chrysler Chairman Lee Iacocca will dedicate the Chrysler Technology Center, a research and development, training, and testing facility all under one roof. It's part of an ambitious $16.5 billion plan to make Chrysler more competitive. And Lee Iacocca joins us now from the center in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Mr. Iacocca, good morning.
Good morning, Joan. How are you?
I'm terrific. Tell us about this new center of yours, what makes it so innovative, and what will be its impact on the industry?
Well, it's a big center. It's huge by any standard. It's got 3.3 million square feet under one roof, and that's big. You could put 7 Rose Bowls in here and sort of lose them. But the key to the center is the 7,000 people will be working here under one roof to develop cars. I call it sort of a dream factory, an invention center, where you'll be able to come in the front door and before the day is over, virtually start to build a car and have it go out the back door and test it and make sure you can build it as a team and build it at the right world-class quality levels that we need in this business.
And in a shorter amount of time, I understand, than in the past. Now it will take only 3 years rather than 5 years for development.
Well, that's the big plus. We used to take as much as 5 years to build an all-new car. Then we went to 4 years, to 3.5, and this one we can almost guarantee you we'll get it down to 36 months, which of course shortens the time, shortens the cost, and gets the quality much better because the people are working together in one area for the full 3 years.
Is investing in this kind of long-term research and development enough, just the R&D, enough in order to really be that competitive with foreign auto manufacturers?
Well, Joan, I really think it's key. I think the country should be doing more of this. Remember, the Japanese are now investing more absolute dollars than we are as a country, and they're only half our size. So we've got to continue to do this. Of course, we need super plants to build the cars after we're done developing and designing them in a place like this. But this is very expensive, but very huge, and it's necessary if we're going to develop the cars properly.
Now, you just said it's very expensive. This project alone, it costs, I'm told, an estimated $1 billion. It comes at a time when your company, as I just said, reported second quarter losses. I think yours are about $212 million. Sales down some 16%. When you're gambling on the long term like this, how do you survive the short-term crunch?
Well, you worry a lot. It's not a gamble. We started this, Joan, in 1984. 7 years it took us to plan this and build it and get the people here for this big day today. And it'll take another 2 years to move them all in. So that's a 10-year span, and this is really going to be a 50, 100-year type of investment. You can't afford not to do it. You can't wait for the cycle for a good quarter or a bad quarter to do things like this. You got to do it now. You just got to bet. Our future is here. If we hadn't done this, we wouldn't survive. This is key to our future, this center right here. That's why it's such a big day for us today.
Well, that I understand, but again, how are you all looking at this short-term crunch right now, and how are you going to make it through this year and the next year?
Oh, we'll do fine. I hope the economy does fine. I don't know what 92 holds. We're sort of bottoming along here. Sales are not too good. We've had a couple of years of down sales. We have the post-war blues, I claim, the recession, the interest rates, what have you. But I'm an optimist. Things got to get a little better because they've been so lousy. I mean, they can't get much worse. And we have a good plan. We'll be all right. The next year is critical, but it's things like this research center and some of our new plants coming on stream and our new products, which we think are super, that'll see it through. But we've all got to do it together. We've got to get quality back. It's important to the American auto industry. It's important to America. All of us have to survive this thing.
While you're there spearheading all this right now, you have announced, of course, that you will step down as Chrysler's CEO by the end of 1992. What will be your future role there? Will you have a future role?
I don't know. Not an active role, maybe some minor role, but I've been here, Joan, would you believe this, 46 years, and I think it's time to step aside. I've been in the auto business a long time, but everything will be fine. I'm here for another year or so.
And you're going to go out with a positive thought, right?
Well, this research center is the most positive thing I could think of, because this is going to be the key to the next 50 years at Chrysler, long after I'm gone.
Mr. Iacocca, thank you very much.
Okay, Joan, nice to see you.
22 minutes after, in our next hour, James Taylor, Good Morning America continues.
Tell from our hands this morning, we were having a debate about the vote coming up tonight in the Senate.
That's all anyone around here has been talking about for days and days and days.
Glad they don't have our conversations mic, though. A polarity of opinion in the studio here.
We've got some other business to talk about this morning. Inflation, recession, foreign competition. The U.S. auto industry has taken a real beating lately. Still, Chrysler's just made a major investment in its future, $1 billion worth, and we're going to show you where the money went. And we're going to talk to Chrysler's chairman, Lee Iacocca, in just a couple of minutes.
Also coming ahead in this half hour, Dr. Bob Arnott has some important and good news about men and cancer in his special series on men's health. And we're going to be meeting actor John Stamos from Full House.
Time now for this morning's news. One of the most contentious Supreme Court nominations in history reaches its climax tonight with a Senate vote on Judge Clarence Thomas. Right now, lawmakers are gathering on the Senate floor to begin the final hours of debate. Allegations of sexual harassment have left senators struggling to decide who is telling the truth, Clarence Thomas or his accuser, Anita Hill.
My phone calls, I think, were a little in favor of Judge Thomas last Friday. Now, I understand that the phone calls over the weekend have switched and that they're now in favor of Professor Hill.
I've got a deep concern about the whole thing. It's tough. You got some very convincing witnesses on both sides.
The vote is scheduled for 6 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. A CBS News poll conducted overnight shows most Americans believe that neither Thomas nor his accuser, Anita Hill, told the entire truth during the Senate judiciary hearings, but a solid 60% believe more of Thomas's story compared with just 20% for Professor Hill. And 57% of those surveyed think Thomas should be confirmed for the place on the Supreme Court, while only 19% said no. But another 22% still can't decide. Richard Thelkeld reports on the public debate.
WCBS reporter Fred Fishkin has the figures on a weekend poll.
The question was, should Judge Clarence Thomas be a justice of the Supreme Court?
The Clarence Thomas matter preoccupied Americans over the long holiday weekend, but at the end of it produced no consensus, not in Southern California.
I think that girl should keep her mouth shut at 10 years old, and she should just go away and leave the poor man alone.
Do I think that he is guilty of inappropriate behavior? No doubt in my mind.
Not in North Dakota.
I would tend to believe Clarence Thomas. There's too many questions about Anita Hill.
I think she's telling the truth and he's not.
It left a lot of people unsure. In Indianapolis, for instance.
What happened was in his past, and it was 8 years ago, so I guess I don't see anything wrong with it.
Let the whole thing die down. It's got too far out of hand. Too many people are getting hurt over it.
And a lot of people plain disgusted in Iowa.
In the Midwest and where I grew up, it was harassment. Now it's what? Harassment. The correct enunciation is harassment, not harassment.
If I was him, I wouldn't even take the job because, like he said, it ruined his life and hers too. It ruined her life.
It's kind of a dubious sort of thing, you know. Who's for him and who's against him? The president's for him, and then you get all these congressmen lined up there, and you look who's asking all the questions.
So now it's up to the Senate, and like the senators, the voters will be just as happy when this whole thing is over. Richard Thelkeld, CBS News, New York.
Secretary of State Baker flew this morning to Syria. It is the third stop in his effort to wrap up plans for a Middle East peace conference. As Baker left Jordan, Palestinians there were talking with Jordanian officials about a possible joint delegation to a peace conference. Baker now hopes to persuade Syria's President Assad to withdraw objections to talks with Israel on regional issues. Finally, The Fisher King was #1 at the movie box offices nationwide for the third straight weekend. The Robin Williams, Jeff Bridges adventure comedy grossed $4.5 million for a total so far of $22.4 million to date. Filling out the top 5 were Ricochet, Frankie and Johnny, Ernest, Scared Stupid, and Deceived. 25 minutes until the hour.
That Ernest, what an actor.
Missed that film, that fourth one on the list.
Who's seen Fisher King?
No,
I saw Fisher King.
You like it?
Thought it was excellent.
You actually interviewed some of the principals, didn't you?
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
The principal. I had a tough morning. I did get Steve Bushell off
Yes.
this morning with your help and Harry's help. But I understand I just butchered John Stamos' name.
Well,
did I get it right that time?
I think you got it right.
Sorry, John.
He got mentioned twice. I think that's beautiful. Paula Zane
Zane
Smith.
You know what it means?
Orenburg, North Carolina this morning.
It reads like a rags to riches and back to rags story. 10 years ago, the Chrysler Corporation lost $476 million. By 1985, it made $1.6 billion. But in the first 2 quarters of this year, Chrysler has lost $800 million. This is all happening just as Chrysler unveils its ultra-modern billion-dollar developmental center in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Joining us from that new facility is Chrysler Chairman Lee Iacocca. Good morning. Nice to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, Paula. Nice to be here.
Given the fact that Chrysler is having such a tough year, money is in such tight supply, how big of a gamble is this investment in the center that we find you sitting in this morning?
Well, we started this gamble. I don't think it's a gamble, but we started 7 years ago. We started planning this in '84 when things were looking great. And it's taken 7 years. It's going to take about 10 years in all to get this place set up. So we don't think it's a gamble at all. In fact, we think it's our future. We can't do without this. We're putting 7,000 engineers and development people all under one roof to do a simple thing. Get the cars out in 3 years' time instead of 4 or 5 years, get world-class quality, and get the cost down. And so this is not a gamble. This is a commitment to the future of Chrysler.
What, though, is the reality of the future? The Japanese have, what, now a 40% share of the United States market? How do you turn that around?
The car market's, well, 30. Well, you build good cars. That's what we're going to do with this place. You build good cars consistently. You get the quality up and the cost down, and the American consumer will beat a path to your door. And that's what we've got to do more of. The Japanese have gotten close to 31% of the market, and we've got to start winning it back, and you only do that with great product, and we got some great ones coming. How
long is it going to take to make some kind of impact and dent in their market share?
Starting, as far as I'm concerned, starting in January, coming up, because all of us got a lot of great stuff coming, and we got to win the American public back, and we're going to do it.
But all three automakers are really facing unprecedented financial pressures.
$6 billion losses in 1 year for all three. I say we all got stupid at the same time. It's a tough recession out there, and it's the post-war blues, and people don't want to buy yet. They're concerned about their jobs, but I think by '92 they'll start feeling a little better about themselves and about our country.
There's a lot of speculation out there that one of these companies might bite the dust. Is that possible?
Oh, poppycock. We have the biggest market in the world, and Europe's got 8 major producers, and Japan's got 9, and we got 3, and we should go down to 2 or 1. That's crazy talk. We'll all be here, and we'll all be healthy.
So you never see a period of time where you might see a merger between two of the largest American automakers?
No, I doubt it. It's always possible, but I doubt it.
Why do you doubt it? Why wouldn't a merger be feasible?
We need 3 strong companies. We got a 16 million car and truck market. Why should we cede it to the foreigners? We don't give up. So General Motors is a good company, Ford's a good company, and Chrysler's a good company. Between us, we've been around for 100 years, almost all of us. So we'll be here the next 100 years also, Paula. Take my word for it.
At one time, there was a lot of talk about producing an electric car. What is the status of those talks? And what might that mean to the future of the 3 big automakers?
Finally, the big 3 in the government formed a consortium to try to develop a battery. It's a long time coming, but that's going to be the breakthrough. If we can do a battery, we'll have an electric car. If we don't have a better battery, we're going to have golf carts, and we can't use those on the freeway. We've been at it 25 years. I think in the next 5 or 10 we'll be there.
You have a bunch of stockholders sitting out this morning. Do you care to hazard a prediction about what 3rd quarter or 4th quarter earnings might look like?
I can't predict the future, Paula. They got to be better than they've been because they've been lousy.
We've got just a couple seconds left. I understand you're going to retire in '92. What comes next for you?
I don't know. Live a little of a good life. 15 months from now, I'll think about that.
All right. Lee Iacocca, nice to have you with us today. I noticed his earpiece just popped out, so he can't hear a word I'm saying at the moment. Thanks again for joining us. Harry?
19 minutes.